Welcome to an all-new episode of Get Lit with Lianna, the podcast. Join me as I sit down with a new guest author in each episode to discuss their books, careers, and everything in between. Today, I'm sitting down with one of my all-time favorite romance authors, Tia Williams. She is a New York Times and USA Today bestselling author for quite a few books, including The Perfect Find, which I'm obsessed with and is going to be a Netflix movie so soon, and 7 Days in June, which was Reese Witherspoon's book club book of the month and is soon to be a TV show. Tia joined me today and we talked all about her books and how they're being made into incredible pieces of film and television, her involvement in them, why it was important for her to create a character that had an invisible disability, what she's working on next, and so much more. This was the most fun episode. It felt like I was just talking to an old friend. I love Tia so much, and I know you will too. Her latest book, 7 Days in June, is now available in paperback, so make sure you run and go grab a copy because the cover is absolutely stunning. But I've seriously rambled enough. Just listen to this episode. Thank me later. My conversation with the incredible Tia Williams starts right now. Welcome, Tia, to the podcast. I am dead on the floor that we're doing this because, as you know, I'm obsessed with you and I've loved every single book of yours that I've read. I just die for you and everything about you I'm obsessed with. So this is a friggin' dream because you're like top tier of all the people I wanted to talk to on this podcast. Like you are seriously at the tippity top.
Oh my gosh.
I can't even. I'm so excited you're here. So thank you so much for taking the time. But before we get into this, like, are you in New York right now? Like, where are we? What are we doing?
We are in Brooklyn. We just had spaghetti bolognese. Daughter has no homework tonight.
Amazing.
Working on finishing my next manuscript. Deadline was June 1st. So, I'm prayers up.
You'll get there. It's good. It's good.
I'll get there. Yeah.
That's so exciting. Okay. Well, before we talk about so many of my favorite things that you've done, I would love for the people that don't know who you are, because I feel like this could be an intro to some people. I mean, probably not, but it could be. So tell me, before you started writing, what were you doing?
Yeah. So I came to New York to do two things: to work at fashion magazines, because that was one of my passions. And then my other passion was writing fiction. So I came up in the fashion magazine world.
Yeah.
So I was a beauty editor specifically at magazines like Elle and Glamour, Lucky, RIP.
Oh my God, RIP,
People.
Lucky.
I know, right? It was.
I haven't thought about Lucky in so long. I loved Lucky magazines.
I think it might have been like my favorite magazine I worked for. It was so good.
God.
Essence. So yeah, I was a beauty writer for a really long time. And then I sort of switched, but not really, into beauty copywriting. So then I was writing for Estee Lauder brands. And that's like ad copy, naming products, that kind of thing. So
crazy.
Yeah, but I guess, 3 years into my career as a beauty editor, I wrote my first novel, and I've been doing both ever since.
Crazy. So you're still fully at Estee Lauder, like doing that while being a crazy author?
Until last month. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's insane. You. I'm like really that first of all must have been like a scary freaking jump to like risk it all and put it all into the writing, but like about time considering what you have going on and like how incredible you're doing. So congratulations. Yeah. That's amazing.
Thank you. It's definitely, I mean, any author will tell you it is such a scary leap, leaving the, 9 to 5 behind, because as we all know, like, you don't go into writing to be a gazillionaire.
Right.
So most of us have, another, income stream.
Right.
So to kind of walk away from it, it's like, but it's time.
It's time. I'm sure, like, also very bittersweet. Like, you're leaving a huge part of you behind, and now you're like, well, anyways, that's amazing. I'm really happy for you. Like, crazy. So obviously one of your first books that like really, this is how I came to know. Okay. So I have to tell you the backstory, because I feel like we've had this conversation, but over DM, like obviously never in person. So I heard about you through Robin Lee.
Yes.
because I interviewed Robin like 2 years ago. I was doing a different podcast with a few friends and I had read The Idea of You and I was obsessed with it. And I had Robin on that podcast and I was like, I need help because I've been in this like terrible book hangover for a year and there's like nothing satiating my appetite. Like there's nothing that comes close to what you did with The Idea of You. And she was very quick to be like, oh, no, there's something close. And I was like, tell me, like, what is even like, what's in the same world? And she's like, my friend Tia has this book called The Perfect Find. And this is like before 7 Days in June was even, I think it had like a working title at the time. And she was like, you have to read it. Like, I think you're going to like it. I, as you know, devoured it in 2 seconds. I think I've read it 3 times since then. I'm actually in the process of rereading it now because I haven't picked it up in a while.
Oh my God.
And that's how I came to you. And I was like obsessed with The Perfect Find beyond belief, which is now so crazy because there's major development news in this story. Like it's going to be a freaking movie.
It is.
It's
wild.
Bonkers. So can you tell me like it's finished filming, right? It's fully wrapped?
It's fully wrapped.
Okay.
You know, I'm new to the Hollywood speak.
Okay.
So they are wrapping up like the editing, putting the score and stuff.
Yeah, okay. They're like mixing it now. Okay.
They're mixing it now.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be on Netflix. It's starring Gabrielle Union and Keith Powers. Not normal at all. I got to visit the set last summer.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've never been on a movie set before.
Okay.
And it was everything you think of, like the trailers and, you know, the actual, what do you call this thing?
Yeah, like a marker, a slate, but like the marker, like marker. Yeah.
Yeah. And like people on the louds on you know, the speaker system calling out the names of my characters that I wrote to come to set. And I'm just like, what alternate dimension is this?
No, like, that's crazy. So like, can you tell me what happened when you got the movie deal? Like take me back. Cause I don't know if you know, but my background is in film. I'm like minored in film, but I work in communications in film and TV. So I'm on set quite a bit. So I'm like very familiar with this world, but like, tell me about like how you got the development deal. Like what was that phone call like? Did your agent reach out to you? Like what happened?
This was so weird and so different than what happened with 7 Days in June.
Yeah.
So The Perfect Find, it hadn't even been out for a while. And I didn't have Snapchat at the time because I find it completely so difficult. Like it is not intuitive. I get in there and I'm like lost in the weeds.
I feel you.
But someone had sent me a snap that Gabrielle Union had done of her, you know, the classic vacation, this is what I'm reading shot. And it was like a view of the beach and The Perfect Find. And I blacked out. Who even remembers that moment? Yeah. And she got in touch with me directly. And that's the thing about social media, right? Like we're all available. Yeah. And she DM'd me and she told me how much she loved it. And next thing you know, she had the option. So
insane.
It was really, so it wasn't even a thing of me even being in the position to be looking, you know.
It just came, it literally fell in your lap.
It literally fell in my lap and it was so serendipitous. And I'm not even like a super like spiritual person. Okay. But when I was writing The Perfect Find, I was having a really tough time. And I have a friend who had become a life coach. Okay. And he was like, you know what? You gotta make a vision board. I was like,
don't tell me you put her as Jenna. I will literally die.
I put her as Jenna. And this is before the book was even done.
I can't.
Listen, and not just that. I actually did it. It wasn't like a Pinterest, you know, vision board.
Like a physical, a tangible board.
Tangible board. And it was yellow. And the book is yellow. And it was long before like there was even a title or a book cover or anything. I know.
No, that's wild, actually crazy. So now, like, do we know when it's coming out?
Spring 2023.
Holy heck.
Either we're not actually, I don't know if I'm supposed to give away.
Okay, it's fine.
So yeah,
it's fine. Yeah. That's insanity. So when you got this book published, like when The Perfect Find was published, like what was that experience like? Was it as like crazy as when you got the movie deal? Like, did it fall in your lap? How much work went into it? Like, tell me about that whole experience. Cause you had written 2 YA books before, right?
I've written 2 YA books before. I worked with Iman on her makeup book.
Okay.
And I wrote my first novel, The Accidental Diva. It was published in 2004. So I hadn't written a book in quite some time. I was like, really focusing on my corporate editorial career at the time. I was, I found myself a single mother. I'd gotten divorced. I was, didn't really have time to be like messing around with, I'm going to be an author this year. It was not the year.
Right.
So I ended up writing The Perfect Find after I hadn't written in 5 or 6 years. And so my name wasn't really hot in publishing anymore.
Okay.
And every publisher in the industry turned me down.
Serious?
Every single one. I had this big fancy agent. And, writers always know when the work is not good. We'll be the first ones to be like, this sucked. I get it. I knew this was good. And so
did you have the whole book written, or was it just
the whole book written?
Crazy.
And I had been working on it for 3 years, and all I got were glowing rejections. And they were always things like, oh, we love it. It's so fun. It's so sexy. It's so cute. So Jenna is a Black fashion editor, like in a white, in dominated. What we know is a white dominated field. Like, don't you want to touch a little bit on like how that felt? And I'm just like, no, because that's not the story. And we are allowed to exist in a fun, sexy story just for the sake of it being a fun, sexy story. We are not symbols of oppression. And I can't tell you how many times, fashion, it seems to be a stretch. Like, can we do a different industry?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I am
you work in fashion.
Like, you're looking at one. Like, it isn't. And even if there had never been any Black people in the fashion industry, which is a laugh, why can't we be there? Like, why is it a leap for you? And why do you believe that audiences would not relate to this character because she's not in the box that you think that a Black character needs to be in to be understood.
Right. Or why do they have to add that element to the story? Like, why can't it just be that she's all of these amazing things and she's Black?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So it was really frustrating. I refused to change,
Good anything. That you didn't. Yeah.
And I finally, found a very small independent publisher. It was almost like self-publishing.
Okay.
And, called in some favors. I had a brilliant girlfriend who's a designer, and she designed the cover, and,
Yeah.
And then it all came together, and it kind of got popular by word of mouth. And then like 3 months later, it lands in Gabrielle Union's hands. Like,
craziness. It's an insane trajectory, like, for all of this to happen. And then after The Perfect Find, I knew about 7 Days in June through Robin, but like, otherwise I wouldn't have known that you had another book like you were working on. So you were already in my ear. Like, I was very aware that you had another book coming out. And then I guess it was like the book was announced, the title, the cover, whatever. And then all of a sudden it's like Reese Witherspoon, like book of the month pick. I was like, wait a second. I was like, my Tia that like I force all my friends to read because nobody's fucking talking about her and I'm screaming about her to everybody. And then I'm like, Reese Witherspoon knows Tia. Like, I was losing it. Were you losing it? Like, how did that happen?
I'm still lost. Like, I cannot believe it. I've been doing this for so long.
Yeah.
And I say I talk about The Perfect Find rejections like so flippantly now, but at the time, it was
devastating. Dark. Yeah, I can't imagine.
It was really, like, I'm even just tearing up thinking about it. It was a really rough time,
Crazy.
And so to get that call from my publisher, it was like a couple of months before 7 Days in June pubbed last June, 2022. And
2021.
2021.
Yeah.
2021. And they told me that it was going to be Reese's June pick, but I couldn't say anything because Reese has this whole relationship with her followers where, on the I guess like a couple of days before the first of every month, it's like she starts dropping hints, and it becomes this whole, you have to guess. And then there's this sort of launch on the app before it's launched on the Instagram, and there's like a whole rhythm
process.
that
Yeah.
there's a process. So I wasn't allowed to say anything to anyone, and even like the Reese's Book Club sticker that's on the cover.
Yes.
We couldn't show that yet.
Right.
So like for
God.
anything promotional before June 1st, like it was a totally different cover. So, and I'm not the best secret keeper. So it wasn't not a challenge. Let's say.
Right. Well, I mean, you were very successful in not telling anybody, because like I've been following you for so long and I had actually zero indication, but like, I just don't understand like what that call was at first. Like how did the book even get into Reese's hands like so far before your pub date? Like I guess maybe you don't know so much of the process, but like obviously your book was on her radar and she read it, liked it, and then decided to choose it, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, she has people on her team whose job it is to like, read books that, vet them, and, books that they think are probably going to be, bigger books that month. And so they vet them before she sees them. And I mean,
I can't
don't
even
know exactly like who picked it up first or how it worked, but I mean, publishing gods were looking out for me. Definitely.
No, and it's actually one of the most incredible pieces of literature. Like obviously, I'm obsessed with romance books, but like this goes so far beyond romance as a genre. Like there's so many, I mean, I could literally have a 4-hour conversation with you about both of your books and how much I love them and how important they are and so different. But like, I'm obsessed with so many, I don't even know where to start, but the number one thing I wanted to talk to you about, because I've listened to you speak on a billion different podcasts, and this is like something very important to you, is talking about like invisible disability rep, right? And how like, especially in 7 Days in June, like Eva deals with like chronic migraines and how it's something that's so debilitating and that nobody like knows about. So, and I know that you relate to that. So can you tell me about why that was important to include in that book? And like, furthermore, like, was there any ever like pushback in the same way that in kind of, you were talking about The Perfect Fine, that where they were like, why does she have to be Black? That kind of thing. Was there any sort of like pushback in terms of the disability rep for this book?
Right. It should be noted that when we were shopping The Perfect Fine around, it was 2015. When we were shopping 7 Days in June around, it's post Me Too, post diversion and diversity and inclusion, post BLM. Like, I don't think that Eva having an invisible disability would have flown, if it was 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Wow. Yeah. Which is crazy.
Right. But so much in the culture has changed since then. And, media is just open to hearing stories from a wider swath of, voices than ever before, literally than ever before. And it was important for me to see someone with chronic migraines in a sexy romance. Yeah. Mostly because I have had a migraine every day since I was 9 years old. Insane. And, it's an internal disability. So it's not like outward facing. So, I'm not on crutches. I don't limp. I'm not bleeding. I'm not, so you don't have to know or know at all that I have this disability, which is a very tricky, complicated thing. Because
and must feel extremely isolating too.
Totally isolating. So much of my life, I have felt just completely alone. To be sitting, in a meeting, sitting in science class in 11th grade, sitting on the train on the way to work around normalcy, looking normal, but like dying inside, trying to figure out how many minutes before I can run into a bathroom and shoot my thigh with some pain medication. Right. And then how long will I have to wait until it kicks in? And then I'll have I'll feel a little better, but then I'll be all drugged up and groggy. So how am I going to be in that meeting? I need to drink some coffee. So it's like all day long negotiating your pain treatment, the recovery from the pain treatment, all of it. And then coming home and, mothering and writing and being a parent. And so I'm going through all of these things. I had been pretty much single for 10 years. Co-parenting very nicely with, my daughter's dad, who lives about 15 minutes away. Okay. But still, like, no partner, like no help. no help. And I'm just like, oh, there has to be more. So I invented Eva with a lot of my characteristics, the migraines, being a single mother of a tween in Brooklyn,
being a writer,
mother, being a writer, all of it. And I wanted to give her, a beautiful ending because, I wanted to, I guess, manifest it into my life. And I should note that halfway through writing the book, I swiped right on my now husband. So there is something to writing, No,
you have like some serious manifestation powers between that vision board and then this. Like, can you rub some off on me? I need some good Tia Juju. But it must have been like so cathartic to write pieces of your experience in a book like this. And I'm sure the response, because just from what I've seen, like when the book came out and people were raving about it, like in the early pub days, like people were genuinely so grateful to see somebody like that looks like them and feels like them that they haven't seen or read before in a book. So like, it must have been incredible for you to like see the way that book was and still is so embraced.
Right. It meant everything. And, I grew up in the 80s and migraine treatment was like 5 minutes from being like, oh, she's a hysterical woman era.
Right.
No one took us seriously. Really, no one took Black women seriously. It was kind of just like, oh, maybe it's just stress, take an Advil, And so I was getting a lot of those stories. It was pretty emotional because it was like I found a community.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And it's been really special.
It's been amazing. Like even from what I'm seeing, but the love story in that book is freaking incredible. And I know that you've said that it's kind of like a play on Romeo and Juliet if like they didn't die. Is that like how you got the inspiration to create these characters and build their love story? Like what was the inspo behind them as a couple?
So it was definitely, Romeo and Juliet, the Leo and Claire Danes one, obviously
the superior one.
The superior one is one of my comfort movies. And I was watching it and, got to the end. And it's weird that this question never occurred to me, but I was just like, what if they, never died? And what if they just like had this moment together as teenagers, wild teenagers, and then went their separate ways and then met again at like 33 as, normal grownups? Like would Romeo and Juliet, sort of normal. Yeah. Would Romeo and Juliet like have the same fire and passion with just teenage hormones, the same love work in a different time? Like, so I was really inspired by that. And then also I hardly ever say this because it's so weird. It's such a leap. Do you watch American Horror Story?
I watched the first few seasons. I think I stopped watching like midway through Asylum.
Yeah, Asylum. Oof.
I think that's around when I stopped watching.
Yeah. So that one was tough. But the first season,
with Connie Britton, so fucking good.
Connie Britton, I was so taken by Tate, the ghost teen boy, and Violet, the daughter. And they were up in her room and for just getting up to no good, and he's like dark and evil, and she's like kind of depressed and angsty and emo. And they have this like dark teenage love connection thing that is totally unhealthy. And so that was like what was that 2010 or something. But they've been in my mind since then, because I was just like, wow, what is there, like two deranged teenagers just in a room together, with
that
no
was like that was part of like the love story inspo behind Eva and Shane. I love that.
Yeah, behind them as teenagers. And that's kind of why I had them run away to this house and just stay there for a week.
I love it.
Yeah.
So now like 7 Days in June is being made into a freaking TV show, right? That's what's happening.
Yes.
So like,
it is.
I can't that's how I'm so worried because as you know, I'm obsessed with your books and I'm like, is it going to live up to it? But like, I just feel like the story is so strong and good that like any even like the small artistic changes and liberties I have to make. Well, the story is fundamentally amazing that like it can't be done in a way that we won't obsess over it and be so excited. But like, where are we now with that development? Like, is that hasn't even started filming yet, right? It's still like early days.
It's not even, so early, like putting the team together early.
Okay.
So, but I cannot fathom. And this is also such a learning experience for me. Like, The Perfect Find was my first film situation. This is my first TV situation.
And they're so different.
And they're so different.
Yeah, they're so different.
Mm-hmm.
How involved were you in, like, did you have any say in either of the projects? Do you know if you're going to even have it in writing or anything, or they're?
Well, no, not the writing, because, screenplay, like that's a totally different skill set, honestly. And I am so wordy and descriptory. Like I can't even imagine like zooming all down to, just dialogue. But with The Perfect Find, since it was like my first go round, I didn't really feel comfortable being super involved. But then by the end of it, I was like, I wish I had, a little, it was in amazing hands and it's going to be fantastic. But, you just start to feel like, you learn. Yeah. And so this time around, I'm definitely more involved.
I'm so excited. Oh my God. Yeah. Crazy. So they're just like early days building the team, but like eventually I'm sure you'll start seeing scripts and stuff. And then it's going to be psychotic, real craziness.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
It's so, just to think that these characters and situations that you kind of came up with on your couch, like in bad pajamas and no bra, like is turning into something that you can watch. It's crazy.
It's crazy. I always say my actual number one dream job would be to like take romance books and not even own a production company, like just be a consultant, like with an author and be like, this is how you need to do it. So that like the fans will die. Like you always hear stories of people that like, or readers that like love the transition from book to movie, but there's always like certain aspects that just they can't get translated just because the people that are making them aren't the exact demographic of the reader. So there's just like little things that get lost in translation. But I feel like if there was a role of somebody that just like consumes all this information and reads these books and loves these books and knows exactly what the fan wants.
Oh my God. Why is that not a job?
Yeah. If you want to hire me, I'll help you.
No, that is brilliant. I actually, Carrie Fisher used to, when they needed scripts to like be punchier and funnier and have like tighter, more clever dialogue.
Yeah.
She would consult, like she would just read it and be like, but you need to say that. And there has to be a romance equivalent.
I really wish there were, because like, anyway, I have full faith that whoever is working on all of your projects are going to execute it flawlessly and there will be zero complaints. But I'm so happy that you're going to be more involved now with 7 days and like everything you learned with The Perfect Find, it'll be translated. It's going to be, I can't wait. So now what are we working on? Like, I know you are past deadline on this manuscript, but you're working on like 3 things right now, right? Or 2 things, like you're doing a million things at once.
Yeah, 2. So right now, the deadline that has just passed is my next adult romance. And I can't really say too much about it, but it involves a woman who moves to Harlem to restart her life, redefine her life. And it has to do a little bit with some magic and some Harlem Renaissance stuff.
Love that. Are we going to see any of like Jenna, Eric, Eva Shane, like in?
Yes.
Oh my God. Cause just so you know, when I read 7 days and then like there's that cameo, I was like, screaming, but so I can't tell you how many people had not read Perfect Find when they had read 7 days.
Right.
So nobody knew. And then I was screaming about it on my stories and people were like, wait, what? I was like, go read the first book, like go read Perfect Find, like stop what you're doing. Like everyone was losing their mind. So that's so exciting that it's all like in the same story world.
I always have visitors. And like, even in The Perfect Find, Jenna's best friend, Billy, is the protagonist of my first novel, The Accidental Diva.
I didn't know that. I haven't read that book. I have to go back and read it. I have to go back and read it. Oh my God. That's so crazy that I didn't know that. That's fun fact.
It's so much fun to build a universe.
That's so much fun. So much fun. But before we go, are you able to tell me about any of the tropes in this upcoming book? Because I just feel like you are masterful with all of the trope usage and like the fact that you use like an age gap in Perfect Find and then you have like a whole second chance romance thing going on. Like you just use the superior tropes in the best ways. So is there any trope scoop you can give me?
I have 2, and it's enemies to lovers and fated mates.
See you later. Literally see you later. I'm gonna be dead. Like actually dead. When the Perfect Find comes out on Netflix, like I actually am gonna have to take a week off of work and just be lying there. Like I can't even. No, like I'm gonna literally cry of happiness. And all of those like paparazzi photos that were like, I don't know if they were leaked or however they got out, but all of those pictures. And then I see you sometimes like reposting them and I'm like, I haven't seen this one. Where's this one from? I can't deal. I can't deal.
Sometimes I just troll Getty. I'm just like, is there anything new that's popped up?
No, it's there. And they're all so freaking stunning. Like everybody in that cast is just, it's gonna be so, I can't. I'm so excited for you. And now everybody can get 7 Days in June because it's in paperback, which is so exciting.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
The designers, I cannot like scream about how amazing the designers at Grand Central are. Oh,
it's stunning. It's a stunning, like, who are those people in the photograph? Do we know? Is it a stock photo? Like, what is this?
Stock photo that they did all this like fancy graphics on top of. Yeah.
Stunning. It's perfect. Okay. Well, this was the best thing ever. If I had all the time in the world, I would ask you like every burning question I have about both of these books. But like, unfortunately, we don't have all the time in the world. But next time when you're back,
absolutely,
we'll have a movie to talk about and we'll have another book, which is insane.
Yay!
I'm so excited.
Yes, I can't wait to come back. We'll get into it all.
Can't wait. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I love you. I can't wait to keep screaming, crying in your DMs about everything.
Oh my God. Yes. I'm always here. DM me, DM away.
DM away. I love it. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Have a good one. Bye.
You too.